Let's understand jiu-jitsu for what it is. Jiu-jitsu is a systems-based approach to fighting, based around 4 distinct steps. You can add steps, you can subtract steps, but the rendition I'm going to give you now is probably the most widely known. You're going to see always that step number 1 is take your opponent to the ground. Okay? Why? It's inherently safer. Less things can go catastrophically wrong on the ground than in a standing position. What's step number 2? Get past his legs. Why? They're dangerous. Okay, if I end up inside your legs, if you're a skilled jiu-jitsu player, you can arm lock me, you can leg lock me, you can strangle me. Even if you were an untrained fighter, you could upkick me. So step number 2 is get past those dangerous legs. Step number 3 of jiu-jitsu is to work your way through a hierarchy of pins where the pins are graded in value according to your ability to strike with effect on the ground. Step number 4, submissions. So we've just described Brazilian jiu-jitsu as a 4-step system. It's beautiful, it's elegant, and it's deadly effective. And now the question that needs to be asked: where do leg locks fit into that system? Leg locks don't fit comfortably into that system. What I did is I tried to find an avenue where they could come in. And the results were surprising. The first thing is, our 4-step rendition of jiu-jitsu looked at jiu-jitsu from top position, where we took our opponent down to the ground and we were on top of them. But my study of jiu-jitsu didn't start from top position, it started from bottom position. If you look at my students in competition, you will notice that around 80% of their entries into leg locks come from bottom position or with their opponent behind them. In other words, from what are supposedly inferior positions. So most of my early work in leg locks was how to get into leg locks from disadvantageous positions, from underneath or when someone is behind me. But things became more interesting when I got further into the leg lock game and I started to realize that as you add leg locks into the game, you change the very nature of the sport. If you look at jiu-jitsu as it's ordinarily practiced, it's a single direction game. If someone is in front of me and I'm standing over them, jiu-jitsu is all about movement from the legs towards the head. I'm supposed to pass their guard, work my way up to chest contact, and get my head next to their head, either in front of them or behind them, either mounted or rear mounted. So jiu-jitsu always goes in one direction. If you ever get stopped or you lose position, you just start the process over again. It's a mono-directional sport. It always goes from the legs to the head. Once you start adding leg locks into the game, jiu-jitsu becomes a 2-directional sport where you can go from the head down to the legs. You can go in both directions. So if I'm passing someone's guard and I simply can't do it, I can fall back and go back into the legs. If I'm side control on someone and they start to recompose their guard, I can fall back into the legs. I'm going from their upper body down to their lower body. Traditional jiu-jitsu always goes from the lower body directionally up to the upper body, so that you end up head to head with your opponent. But once you start adding leg locks, jiu-jitsu for the first time becomes a 2-directional sport instead of a 1-directional sport. And you can play your opponent's reactions between the threat of lower body and upper body in ways that opens up submissions so much more easily than the traditional game.